Hello, welcome to Straight Talk Medicine. I'm Dr. Jeff Kennard, and with me today is Dr. Grause. Folks, as you know, those who watch the program on a regular basis know that each week we try to bring you providers outside of my personal office, Kennard Chiropractic. We try to bring you providers from around our community that offer various services or to give you advice on various conditions. We try to be a source for you to help you become a better informed consumer of medical care. So anyway, today we're going to focus on our office and on a chiropractor who's recently joined our staff, Dr. Grause.
Hi, good day.
Welcome. And so I'm gonna dive into his background a little bit. We're gonna find out what your history is, just to kind of give the people at home watching the show, give them an idea about who you are and what brought you to Citrus County, that sort of stuff.
No worries, I'll keep it G-rated.
All right, very good. Okay, first of all, your background. Before we dive into that, let's talk about your what got you interested in chiropractic? What made you decide to go down this road?
Ooh, what got me interested in chiropractic? Yeah, it's I got into chiropractic because of my mom. This is already late in life. It was probably already in my late 20s. My mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer, was going through a lot of convalescing time with surgery, had been on some really severe medications, and was bedridden all the time, whether she was letting something heal up or was knocked out from some type of pharmaceutical. She was constantly stiff and achy and sore and a lot of these kind of just general malaise. She got into chiropractic. She was my segue into chiropractic, and it was something that just really took me back. She would go see the chiropractor, be with him for 10, 15 minutes, however long the necessary treatment was, and instead of her attitude being, I just want to go back to bed and lay down, or give me another Lortab, or she went to, let's go and get a coffee and see a movie. Now, when you have a family member sick, that's dying, that's huge. It's always the amount of quality time that you can spend with someone. So I definitely say just the quality of her life improved so much during what time she had left, that then I kind of stopped, reassessed where I was and on kind of my own path, and yeah, took the road less traveled.
Well, she obviously had some very, very serious issues going on medically, and you could see that this was something outside of maybe the ordinary medical care that was giving her some relief, at least giving her some quality of life back.
Absolute. It was, and it wasn't, I wouldn't say, it wasn't a cure, absolutely not, but it was the palliative care she got out of it was, she was able to reduce her medication. Now, she wasn't pharmaceutical free, but when you can start reducing your doses significantly, so you're more cognizant with the people that you love and want to be with, that's great. If people who watch have any experience in this type of scenario, I'm sure they're nodding their heads up and down right now as I'm talking to you. And yeah, that's what really kind of put me on the road to chiropractic, and then yeah, it's been a great road ever since.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about that road.
Yeah. And what's I hope I don't sound like too much of a hypocrite while I talk here, but my background prior to coming into chiropractic was in science. I have a bachelor's of science in chemistry. So while I didn't have, I wasn't a master of the pharmacology of things, I had a very strong understanding of the way drugs were made, drugs interacted, drugs worked. And that's kind of what I had always known, especially coming from that community, very hardline, scientific, objective community, into seeing chiropractic and then going, whoa, is this what I even want to do anymore? Is this what I even want to pursue? And I was at a big fork in the road of going to get advanced degrees in chemistry, and then this popped up, and it took me to chiropractic. Studied over at Palmer, Florida. Go Palmer. And yeah, a phenomenal school. And chiropractic is really opened so many doors for me. I've had a lot of opportunities to travel, see various parts of the world, communicate chiropractic to areas in developed countries, I mean, that have not experienced this before. So it's been a lot of fun to go and, on a professional level now, many years down the road, to go and share chiropractic to people that have never really experienced it before.
Right.
So,
now, you went out to Hawaii, or you were in Hawaii and did your undergraduate work there.
I did.
And you, at that time, you took up a hobby, or it was already your hobby?
It was more of my life.
All right.
So yeah.
Well, tell them about that. They want to hear about your...
Phenomenal. Yeah, I got started surfing when I was about 10 years old. It was something that was, I was introduced to as a father-son activity.
Okay.
Some dads go throw the ball with boy, others are going fishing. Well, I had no aptitude for hand-eye coordination and squeamish towards fish.
Yeah.
So my dad and I started surfing together. So yeah, from about 10 years old till, I prefer not to say my age on camera right now, but till we'll say my mid-30s, it was definitely something that was always the forefront of my mind. Waking up every morning, looking at weather maps, looking at the swell forecasts, looking to see where the waves are at. And when I was given, you know, my own freedom to the point where I could, if the younger viewers are watching, don't do this, but not listen to mom and dad. When you become 18, I moved to Hawaii.
Okay.
And loved it. It was a phenomenal time in my life. I certainly got to satiate any desire I had for the ocean. And yeah, it's a wonderful experience. And
now, after there, you came to Florida. You went to Palmer College of Chiropractic over in Port Orange.
Yep.
And you graduated from there, and
promptly left the U.S. again. Yeah. Even though Hawaii is still in the U.S., it certainly has its own identity. But yeah, I had the opportunity to go to Australia.
Okay.
So I went to Australia, lived in Western Australia for about a year and a half. Worked in a very, very rural community. It makes Citrus County look like a bustling hubbub metropolis. But I worked with a lot of farmers. I worked with a lot of miners. I worked with a lot of people that were just had very physical lives.
Okay.
And they were really receptive to chiropractic over there.
Okay.
So it's something that, yeah, the community there loved it, and I loved Australia.
Okay.
So it works out good.
Very good. Well, folks, we're about out of time for this segment, but stick around. We'll be right back, and we'll continue this road with Dr. Grause and find out where he went from Australia and how he ended up right back here in little old Citrus County. Okay, folks, welcome back to Straight Talk Medicine. I'm Dr. Jeff Kennard, and if you joined us the first segment, then you know that with me today is Dr. Christian Grause. He is a chiropractor who recently joined our staff at Kennard Chiropractic. And we were talking, we dug into a little bit of your background. We found out what brought you to chiropractic, and where we left off with the first segment was you had graduated from Palmer College over in Port Orange, Florida, and moved to Australia, where certainly you introduced some people to chiropractic in rural part of Australia, and did a bit of surfing over there too, I imagine. And then from there, where did we go?
It's the
from there?
cliffhanger, huh? Yeah. I'm sure everyone was biting their nails to find out what was happening next. And I stayed in Australia. Western Australia is, like I was saying, incredibly rural and a very active community. It was a lot of miners, farmers, people working in the vineyards, so a very hands-on, blue-collar type of patient that I dealt with. So you certainly got to see the stresses that type of those type of stresses that went to that type of person, that type of worker. And then from there, I went over to the eastern states, over to Queensland.
Okay.
Total opposite side of Australia, which then put me into a little bit more, well, a white-collar demographic.
Right.
So,
right.
And I'm not trying to make a distinction between blue and white-collar, but for me, it was a very manual how they use their bodies to how someone who's an office worker and a lawyer and an accountant uses their body. So it's a kind of a little bit of a clinical contrast of sorts. So yeah, it was a little bit of a different shift. Instead of being so in such a small town, I mean, it's definitely you. I'm sure, as you know, you live and die by your reputation in a
Right.
small town. It's a lot of knowing people, a lot of meet and greets. Things are, well, you got to be a city slicker.
Right.
So I mean, it was definitely a town versus country type of yeah, scenarios. Definitely a little bit of a, yeah.
Okay.
To say I liked one more than the other, they're both lovely.
Right.
And yeah, but then left Australia and went to Germany.
Okay.
So back to the old world, back
Yeah.
to the Grause roots.
Yeah.
And that
Good.
was really a unique experience. It's Germany. I mean, they're industrial, they're first world, but they really have no exposure to chiropractic there. At least not the chiropractic that we know in the U.S.
Okay.
So it was incredibly well received. A lot of people had no idea what we can offer them as chiropractors. Totally new. Yeah, it was wonderful. So not only did I go take chiropractic over there, but then I had to learn German.
Right.
So let's hope I haven't offended anyone in German. I'm sure I meant to say you have a nice, healthy spine, and I probably said, what's your grandmother cooking tonight, or something totally obscure. So I promise not to speak German to anyone.
Yeah, that would be a good thing, I'm sure. But when you were over in Germany, you and I have talked about this, that their socialized medicine did not cover chiropractic.
No.
So the patients that were coming in to see you were patients that they paid for this out of their own pocket.
100% out of pocket. Now, kind of take a moment to reflect on that. You live in a country where medical care is provided for you,
right,
of which the medical care you're receiving is so inadequate that
right,
you're stopping,
right,
you're fed up, and you're going to take, I mean, the taxes that you pay in a socialized country are very high, that you're going to take what money you have left and solve the problem properly.
Yeah.
So it's, in the beginning, it was a little bit of, I had several patients who had some difficulty with that idea.
Right.
But I mean, it's always the proof in the pudding. I mean, it's, I give all to my patients, and they get better, and they were happy. And yeah, so now they're not getting shots. Now they're not on their X, Y, and Z pharmaceuticals. And just because, I mean, I think it's certainly what I think is a perception here in the U.S. that the socialized, that they're getting this wonderful care.
Right.
They get pushed through a system. They get treated as quickly as possible. That's so just their system so inundated with patients. The doctors are overly burdened that it's not as though everyone's getting an MRI and a high five. They're getting a shot, what gets you out the door, and they're moving to the next person.
Right.
So it's to go from that to having hands-on, interactive, solving the problem. It was opened a lot of eyes.
Okay. All right. Now, you were in Germany for, what, a couple of years, 2 years?
2 years.
And then came back home to Florida?
Yep, Florida's home. My family lives over towards New Smyrna Beach.
Okay. And thankfully, we were able to locate you, or you located us, and now have moved here to Inverness and have been in practice here in the office. So let's talk a little bit about, in our office, tell myself and the folks at home about some of the different techniques that you use, and then we're going to compare that in the last segment. We'll compare that a little bit to Dr. Batson and myself that are both in the office as well.
Sure. You know, I would definitely say, I mean, you're a Palmer grad too. We probably have very similar techniques, a very similar philosophy. If I had to make a delineation, or how am I unique, there's a couple other services that I enjoy. There's one technique called SOT, sacro-occipital technique. It's a very light force technique, and it's a lot of looking at how your body is splinting, embracing, and compensating. When I can see what type of pattern your body's falling into, it very quickly brings me in and hones me in on the problem that's giving you this dysfunction, that's creating this symptom.
Right.
So yeah, it's another way to get to the same end result, but it's definitely something that I believe in and really enjoy. From there, I really enjoy dealing with a more sports-oriented patient. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm always working with the elite athlete, but there's a lot of people that like to bowl, that like to golf, that are doing things on a recreational basis. And once they lose that ability or can no longer go and do what they enjoy, it's big. So a lot of times that's their motivation for them to get healthy again is through to have a better golf game, to bowl a better game, to go run further, to be able to fish for another hour longer.
Well, golfing, I don't mean to interrupt you there, but golfing is certainly a sport and activity that is, I guess, promoted as something that you can enjoy well into the later years of your life. In fact, I had a patient at one time, I haven't seen him now in a little while, but I had a patient that was 92 that golfed 5 days a week.
Right on.
And that was all he wanted. When he would come in, he just wanted to get his regular adjustments so that he could continue his golfing.
I'll challenge you in Wii golf.
Yeah. So we'll get back to that here.